Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shandean. I'm a lifestyle content creator and I'm Jamaican living in Saskatchewan. If you have seen my video for the very first time, welcome. I hope you like it here. I hope you subscribe and stay. And I hope you share the information if you find it useful or helpful to you. So today we're going to be talking about the fact that I've been living in Saskatchewan for 2 years now. I'm really just going to be talking about my experiences here, how I find it, things like that. Will I be moving? Will I be leaving? You know, things like that. I really find that there's a lack of, I want to say information when it comes to moving to Saskatchewan. There are tons of moving to Canada videos. People move to Calgary all the time. People move to Toronto all the time. And I think people do move to Saskatchewan all the time, but I think not everyone shares their experience. So that's what I'm going to be doing today, and I'm going to share some of the things that I like, some of the things that I've experienced, and you can, make a determination as to whether you think Saskatchewan might be a place for you. So let's start off strong with the pros. The number one pro is the lower cost of living. That needs no explanation. Canada overall is very expensive, but living in Saskatchewan, in particular housing, Canada is going through a housing crisis right now, and Saskatchewan is literally one of the cheapest places to live in this country. And I cannot say that it was not one of those top factors that contributed to the fact that I decided to come here. It's not the only one, but it certainly ranked very high on that list. I have not regretted it on that front. Currently you can probably get a 2-bedroom apartment for, let's say, under $2,000, and that's not something that you could probably find in the GTA or somewhere else. Like, even Calgary is getting more expensive. When I initially was thinking about moving to a province, Calgary in Alberta was one of the places that was really, really high on my list. It was actually first, but I didn't go, and it's been getting more expensive in recent years, so I don't think anywhere is safe from the housing cost issue. But we are here in Saskatchewan is certainly further behind than most places. So the next positive I would say is jobs. Now obviously this is very dependent on what you do and what field that you are in, but for me, I'm a professional. I have a degree in management studies and specifically in communications. I found it relatively easy to find a job here. It took me, initially when I came to Saskatchewan, I found a job before I landed here. That job didn't work out, and I job hunted for about 3 months before I got another job. However, I will say I was being extremely picky and I was looking for something very, very specific to support my career and immigration. So there's that. Whether or not the job market is great for everyone, I cannot say. And I don't think anyone can say. You have to just simply do your research and search for your career field to see whether or not there are openings or how many openings there are in your field. I will say Saskatchewan is a farming province, and so trades tend to be more in demand, I would think, than professional. But I mean, there are, I live in Regina, so there's a university, there are government jobs, and then there are private companies as well. A lot of private companies, while Regina has a lot of government jobs where the government headquarters are, a lot more businesses take their private headquarters to Saskatoon. But the cities are 2 hours apart. There's remote working, there's hybrid working, and 2 hours, it depends on how frequently you have to make the trip. Particularly for my job, I do have coworkers that are able to make the trip between Saskatoon and Regina fairly in a day. You know, they're able to do that. And while it might not be something that is ideal for an everyday situation, it's certainly not entirely out of the question if you find yourself in a situation where you need to do that. Also, there are, you know, smaller towns on the fringes of the city. So if you're okay with that, and you don't mind a little bit of a commute, like maybe half hour, an hour, there are also lots of surrounding communities that you could probably live in or find work in. Just throwing some options out there, but honestly, I don't think that anyone can give you a, yes, there are lots of jobs here. There are jobs, but what kind of jobs? It depends on what kind of jobs you're looking for. Okay, something that I did not expect when I was coming to Saskatchewan that was really surprising for me was the diversity. And I will say, I'm not going to say this is unique to all of Saskatchewan. I'm specifically talking about Regina. When I got here, I was worried about, you know, racism and things like that, because that is something that did come up in my research when I was looking into the province. However, as I've stated before on this channel, I have not personally had any racial interactions, like racially led interactions. I don't believe. I did have a one-off situation when I interviewed for a job that left me feeling like, yeah, no. But other than that, in my 2 years here, I have not experienced that. I find that there is a very, of course, most of the population is Caucasian, but I find that there's an interesting mix of Asian people or Nigerians and other African communities. Jamaican community, which I initially thought was like non-existent, is also very present. So I found that out just by being here. And other minorities as well. Just overall, I think I was very impressed with the fact that, oh, it's not as far out there as I thought it was going to be when I came. I also find that the people here are very warm and very welcoming, which is something of a contrast to when I was living in the Greater Toronto area. People are just a lot nicer from where I'm standing. They're a lot more quick to engage you in conversation and to talk to you and to be helpful to you and things like that. And so it's made the transition really, really easy for me. So that's my general feelings on that. I was very surprised that the pockets of community were just all around, and it seems like, you know, people are interested in engaging. People are interested in learning about each other's cultures and things like that. And that was something that I don't think came up when I was doing my research before I came. So it was nice. It was a nice positive to come here and to see that. I live in Regina, so let's talk about entertainment. Now, one of the number one complaints from people is that, oh, Saskatchewan is awful, it's dead, it's boring. That's not true. Is the entertainment different? Yes. It's not. You're not going to find a street club in every corner. You're not going to find people doing, you know, there's not big water parks here. They're not big museums, but there are things to do. They're just not, it's a little less commercialized. Does that make sense? When I initially moved, I struggled to find out what there was to do in the city, and it really did seem like it was dead and like, what's going on? There's nothing going on, but the truth is things are going on there. I honestly feel like Regina is a city of about 200,000+ people, and it has more of a small town feel. So when things are going on, it seems like people just know. It's almost like everybody knows what's going on. I found that listening to the radio helps me with that, which is so crazy because I had a conversation about this today. But once you know what's happening in your community, you find that a lot of it is mostly family oriented. And so as a single person, I think it would be difficult to integrate if you're moving here. But if you've got your family, and you're family oriented and that's the kind of life that you want, I would say Saskatchewan is as good a pick as any. But I'm not partial to the big city life. If you enjoy those things that are in the big city, you may struggle here, and that's just the truth of what it is. But I find that being open to integrate and being open to trying Canadian things, trying Canadian activities and food and places and things like that, and just approaching it with the mindset that it's different. It's not bad, it's different. Let me try it and see how I feel about it. So there is that. There is a little bit more to do in Saskatchewan, I think. People say that. I've been to Saskatchewan several times, and they do say that, you know, there's a lot more to do in Saskatoon. But I don't know if that's true. I don't buy it. It does seem a little bit more lively, I want to say, but I don't buy it. And having moved to Regina first, I can't say that I'd be in a rush to move to Saskatoon. I can't, and I could, but I can't say that I'm in a rush to do that. Personally, I like it to look at. There's this bridge on the river in Saskatoon that's really, really pretty. But other than that, I want to go home to Regina. I'm so sorry. There is a bit of competition between the both cities, but don't kill me for saying this, but it's a little bit like Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. Like, Regina's here and Saskatoon has a competition. But don't fight me. That is what I believe the situation to be. So let us talk about the cons, right? We've talked about a lot of the pros. Let's talk about the cons. Regina is not as big as a lot of the other cities in Canada, which means that there are not a lot of airlines that fly into the city. During the winter season, which is peak season, there are a lot more flights, I think, but on a regular basis, you know, Saskatchewan is far. It's far away. It's very far north. So it is expensive to travel out of and into this province. I did, like, that was something that I didn't pay enough attention to when I was in Toronto. It was like it's like a 4-hour flight from Jamaica. Okay. When you factor in that Saskatchewan is a 4-hour flight away from Toronto, and factor in the layovers, which are usually pretty long, then it gets to be a bit much. I went to Jamaica recently, and let me tell you, 12 hours plus of traveling is not for me. I like to go new places, but that is not for me. So that is something to think about. You're a little bit more further out, and so it takes longer to travel. It costs more to travel. Let's not even talk about how expensive that is, but that is something to consider. It's expensive to travel in and out. But I do find, I think mostly because of the harsh winter, a lot of the people here are very well traveled. You will find that a lot, and I mean a lot, almost every person I have met here that's born and raised here have either been to Jamaica or someplace in the Caribbean at some point in time in their lives. Just going away for the winter is a thing. It's sort of like going to the lake in the summer, which is also a thing. Going up north, going camping, going to the lake, things like that. It is that common to just be going away for a few weeks in the winter time to escape the cold and to, I guess, endure the longevity that winter has. So you find that people here are very well traveled. Most of them have lived in other places, especially the natives. I find that most of the people that I talk to that are natives and they've left, they've come back when they're ready to start their families, or they've come back to settle down. It's kind of like it seems like they grow up here and go, oh, it's so boring, I want to go out, I want to do, you know, more things, and then they leave and go out into the world, and then they come back because it's like, yeah, I'd rather do this in Saskatchewan, I'd rather have my family in Saskatchewan and just, you know, build my life here, which I think speaks volume to the fact that I'm an older millennial who is quite settled in my family life, and so I'm content here. I'm very content here, and I get it. I grew up 30 plus years in a country that is vibrant and full of life, and you know, lots of pan knocking, lots of partying, lots of ray. I've never really been into that, but I could see how having access to that for 30 plus years could be that indicative thing that makes it so that I'm quite content living here in Saskatchewan. But yeah, the winter is harsh. Let's talk about it. Like, last winter was not so bad. We didn't have that much snow, but the winter before that, baby, it does get really harsh, especially I think it's the wind chill that makes things bad. When it gets down to like minus 20 something, and there's a wind chill that brings it up to minus 30s, minus 40s, minus 50s sometimes. But you know, to be honest, I feel like when I was initially being told about the winters, it was kind of like, oh, you're gonna be in minus 50s all the time. That's not the case. Regular winter temperatures hover at, I want to say, between minus 10 and minus 15, 16, 17, in the teens. Like, right, the minus teens. And it sounds very bad. It sounds bad. I know it does. But I don't mind, because most of the time it's dry. It is a dry winter, and I find that much more manageable than when I was in Ontario, and it would be a 4 or a 5, and the snow would be wet and piled up on the side of the street, and you can feel it in your bones. Like you can literally, like I sound like such a Saskatchewanian right now, but you can literally feel that. Like, initially when I came to Canada, they'll be like, oh, there's a wet cold and there's a dry cold, and I was just like, stop it, cold is cold. But living here in Saskatchewan and having, you know, spent a winter in Ontario, I totally get the difference, and I prefer the dry cold. It's easier to manage. Last winter was a really dry winter, and I found it to be more bearable and more manageable. There was not very much snow, so most of the time it was just cold, and you're kind of just going about your business. You just have to make sure that you're not overexposed in the cold for a long time and things like that. When the snow is cold and wet, when there's like freezing rain and things like that, I found it much more difficult to deal with. So think about that. Another con, although I don't really know that it's not that big of a deal to me, but it might be to you. A lot of the stores may not have an outlet in Saskatchewan, right? So for example, you'll find the more common ones, like, of course, we have Costco and Walmart and Dollarama and things like that. But if you're looking for like a Zara, if you're looking for an Apple store, things like that, they don't have those. And initially it could feel like a problem, because when I first got here, you know, just wanting to be able to, oh, I could go to Skechers and things like that in Ontario and things like that. I couldn't do that here, and it was initially a bit annoying. However, all it takes is a little bit of re-socialization. Honestly, it's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a problem. If you really want things, you can buy them online. Problem solved. And I haven't even done that, because to be honest, a lot of the things that I thought I needed, quote unquote, I've been able to do just fine without. Like, I don't miss anything. You know what I mean? So I think that's up to you, but you have to prepare your mind that some of the larger chain stores aren't really here, but some are. So there's that as well. I don't really think those are my cons. Like, the city could be a little bit more developed, but it is growing. there's construction all the time. The city is literally just spreading out. There's so much construction, there's so much going on. They're constantly having to build schools because the schools are full and things like that. And you know, they need more healthcare workers and things like that. But all of this are a testament to growth that is happening. Housing costs are also going up, so that's something to keep in mind as well. So like I said, that has been my experience for the last 2 years living in Saskatchewan. So now for the big question. Am I going to leave? A lot of people come to Saskatchewan because it's an easy route to permanent residence, and then they serve out their time, you know, 2 years or whatever, that they think will make it so that they do not have to worry when it's time for citizenship, and then they leave. Will I be doing that? No, I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. I'm not saying I'm never leaving, because forever is a long time and priorities can change over time. But currently, for where I'm at in my career, in my life, in my family life, I'm not looking to leave the province anytime soon. While I didn't come to the province because I'm just like, I didn't decide that, oh, I'm gonna move to Saskatchewan. I really just had a job here, and then I was like, oh, it seems like a nice province. I got the job there. I'm gonna go and see if I like it or not. But when I was doing my research, I can put the phone down now. When I was doing my research for moving to Canada originally, that's before I got to the GTA or anything like that, I had my sights set on Calgary. Calgary was the city that I was like, all right, it's big, but it's not too big. It's sort of big, but it seems like that's the place that I want to go. But then it occurred to me that even when I was looking at Calgary as the place to move and to settle, I didn't look for housing and jobs and things like that directly in Calgary. I was still looking for cities on the periphery that were small but close to Calgary. So for example, Airdrie or Chestermere, or you know, places like that. So I was still actually looking for a smaller city, even when I decided that, yeah, I would most likely move to Calgary. And if I were going to leave, I would say that Calgary might be the place that I would go to. I think one of the pulls for me is that Calgary has more options in terms of maybe furthering your career and things like that, if that's what you want to do. Graduate studies is, I mean, to me, the options are very limited in Saskatchewan. It turns out what a lot of people do is they leave, they study, and then they come back. Like I said, I don't know what the future holds, but I have no immediate plans to up and leave this province at this time. I like it here. I'm comfortable. I'm happy. I've been able to create a life in the last 2 years that I don't know that I've been able to do it somewhere else. You know, I don't know that I would have been this content in my immigration journey and just where I'm at with my family life overall had I gone to a bigger city. So I hope this was insightful for anyone looking for information on what it's like to live in Saskatchewan. Again, if you're looking for the place that is, you know, a Las Vegas or a New York, or this is not that. But if you are into having a slower pace of life, Saskatchewan reminds me of Jamaica in a lot of ways. For example, at a certain hour, people got out of mad. The place sat down. It's not constantly going. It's not. Like, if you want to walk out at 12 a.m., people don't got out of yard. You can probably still go to a 24-hour place to eat or order some food or something like that. But, like, on the streets, the people don't got out of yard. Them got out of yard. Or them gone where them want to go. But, again, that slower pace of life is something that I really personally enjoy. So, if you find this video helpful, please share it with someone that you think is looking for this type of content. Consider liking, subscribing, and sharing. My analytics tell me that 65% of the people who watch my videos aren't subscribed, but they're returning subscribers. Why aren't you subscribing? Please subscribe to the channel, share it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.